Hello fellow builders, it's great to have you back for another video from our Let's Play series, Twisted Dunes on the Oasis map. I'm your builder, New Build Cities, NBC for short, and last episode we built this lovely government center to act as a nice feature when you enter our downtown. And of course today, we are going to build that downtown. I have a ton planned, and this episode is going to be a bit longer than normal, but I assure you, it's well worth your time. I've set aside some unique buildings here on the left I'd like to use, as well as you can see I used the district painting tool to label a rough idea of how our downtown is going to unfold. So let's get started. I'd first like to start in this area labeled High Height IT, and this is going to be the core of our downtown, where a lot of the tall skyscrapers are going to be. We're going to have a plethora of unique buildings in this area that bring height to the city, as well as we'll use the IT cluster designation for our office to give us some additional height. And I have a basic idea of the road structure. I mean, for the most part, our downtown's going to be a grid. This is one place where I do like doing grids, is a downtown high density area. But I don't know exactly what the grid sizes are going to be. So as you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and place a handful of unique buildings down and then kind of build the roads around them. That makes sense. So I'm not going to build the roads, then try and fit unique buildings in. I'm going to build the unique buildings and then try and fit the roads to match those unique buildings for the most part. And I like what we have so far. It's really turned out real nice. And what I like to do around the EP20 building, probably not pronouncing that right, is have a nice modern city building as well as use the local and organic zoning to do some parking lots. So let's go ahead and grab some of the district painting for that. And then what I think I'm going to do eventually as well is add some more parking near the Colossal Order building and the Services Office building. And of course I want to add buildings, both unique and zoned, that give a stepped up look. So kind of like our government center has some decent sized buildings, but the height's kind of low. Then we got Eddie's building that's giving us a little bit more height. And then we got the Colossal building and the Service Office building. It's got even a little bit more height. And then a little bit beyond that, we're going to have even a little bit higher height with some of the IT buildings and some of the high, tall office buildings from the Japanese content creator pack. And then as we get closer to the water, you see here, we have the Grand Mall and the Transport Tower kind of stepping our height back down. And our downtown's not going to be ginormous, gigantic. It's going to be a relatively modest downtown. It's going to have a handful of kind of unique buildings and tall buildings just to give the city a core location, but it's not going to be a whole entire tile worth. Now I want to add the Zagreb building and the Science Center from our university campus towards the water. They're both really pretty buildings, as well as their height's going to bring it down. And between them and the two unique buildings, I think what we'll do is we'll have some self-sufficient high density, so we can add a little bit of height that's kind of like in between the two. Once again, kind of giving that perception of tearing down as you get away from the core part of downtown. The buildings are tapering down. As you get away from our downtown throughout this, from a city's perspective, the buildings are getting lower and lower height. Maybe buildings of high height are a little bit fewer and farther between, and of course more low density as you get out towards the edges. Which is why we use the European and European suburban styles kind of like on the outskirts of our city, because the high density European buildings are still pretty low comparative to, say, maybe the North American style or some of the IT cluster type stuff. And then now I want to go ahead and put a ferry in, where we marked ferry. We're going to go ahead and place us the large ferry. And it's fun and it's awesome. I don't know, I'm really thrilled about having a ferry in the desert. It's just so not should be here, but I don't know, it's just part of the game. Part of the fun of the game is using your imagination, your creativity, and going outside maybe some realms of reality here and just having some fun with it, you know? So I'm really liking the fact that we have ferry in this city. It's not the best transit in the world, but like I said, just really liking it. And in this area here where we're putting all these keys down, I want to build, well, as you can see, fishing / harbor area. So we're going to use some of the assets from the Sunset Harbor to create a fishing industry, some of the fishing factories. So we're going to go ahead and set this area up for some of those assets. I think we have the anchovy, but what I think I'll end up doing is switching this out to the shellfish. The shellfish boats are pretty substantial size. They look nice, and one shellfish support probably 4 fish factories. Go ahead and hook the ferry line back up to our depot, and it's looking good so far. Like I said, I think I want to go ahead and swap out the anchovy for the shellfish. They produce quite a bit more fish, and I'm going to go ahead and lower the depth of the water. Since there is a water source, I caught that ferry. I love it. Since there are water sources in here for the map, then of course they're going to naturally fill this thing back up. So shellfish like still water with lots of depth. Anchovy, I think it's still water with shallow depth. I want to say tuna is deep water and high current, and salmon is shallow water and high current. That's like the 4 combinations that you can have. So knowing that allows you to, like I did here, I know I have basically a lake, right? So it's still water, but I had shallow depth. Let's make the depth deeper by dredging it, basically, and that gives me that allows me to change it from anchovy to shellfish. Or if you know you can divert a river, add fresh water outlets to speed up the current of like a river, and you want to do tuna or salmon, you can do that. So knowing what type of water, both depth and flow rate, gives you what type of fish you can manipulate using the terrain tools and the different assets we have to give you the desired fish that you want. It's looking really, really good. I like how our little harbor is coming out for our downtown. It looks really nice. It looks industrial. I think what we'll do is behind the fish factories and maybe between the pier and like the train track, we'll zone some yellow generic industry. We'll be a little selective. We'll get some of the crates and warehousey type buildings, and once again add to that industrial feel, as well as bring industry directly down into our downtown. And then we'll use some office to kind of buffer that between, say, our commercial areas and our residential areas. Now let's go ahead and do some work in Smith Square behind our ferry pier. And what I'm going to do is bring in the European high density. As you can see, voila, is that. What I also want to do in this area is kind of do what we did in the self-sufficient area, which is place a fish market. Since we have fishing right next door, really, is place a fish market right in the middle of this square and do the whole organic and local produce zoning that gives us all a little like flea market-y type stands and create a nice market area in our downtown, kind of like on the border of our little fishing industry. And once again, some of the residents and kind of like waterfront area. I think it's going to turn out real nice. And you can see our self-sufficient areas coming in real nice. Let's take a nice look. It looks good. I really like the look from the water. Got this cool pier, some high-density European. Got the Zagorot. We got that like double-decker European bus kind of coming down, picking people up from our ferry and bringing them to the train station. It's looking real nice. Let's go ahead and let them grow in. I'll bounce back and forth off camera to kind of get the building that I want. Let's do some work right next to our government center. And in this area here, what I'm thinking is we'll have some more height, because once again, it's kind of near the train station, it's kind of near the core of our downtown. We'll zone some office, as well as maybe a little bit of the, I want to say it's the tourism zoning that gives you the hotels, whatever one gives you the hotels. And we'll do a little bit of the high density North American style, some people just call it the vanilla style, commercial buildings too. Between this office commercial area and our 4-lane road is maybe put in a nice residential apartment complex. And it looks like right now in the life of the city, I'm seeing we're around 60,000 residents. Not bad. We're at 145 million in the bank. We're making, I don't remember, probably anywhere between 50,000 and 220,000 a week. Mainly our income is coming from Airports DLC has given us probably a good chunk of that. Industries DLC has given us another large chunk of that. We're not making a huge ton off our parks. I didn't really do the park trick in this city. And we're making a decent money off the fishing industry. But I would say that's mainly driven by Industries DLC and Airports DLC right now, our income. And it's looking good. And I mean, we can do anything we want, which is always nice. And do a little detailing while we're here. Add a little fencing. I mean, you know me. Fencing is always the key to life, it seems like. Always makes things look good. Add a little bit of pathing. Get people walking around in the area. Give them little shortcuts from here to there. Looks good. What I think I'll end up doing is converting this path here to a bridge, get people across the street, and that way they don't interfere with traffic, because we're going to have a little bit more traffic downtown. But we are going to put mass transit. The transit will probably, is that obviously we have some of the ferries, so that's kind of moving people around. People can walk around. I said we'll give them biking, pathing, stuff like that, as well as we'll run a lot of bus down here. I did end up purchasing the vehicle content creator pack. Within that gave you like a bunch of different buses, which you've probably seen within the city. So we got like the articulated bus, double articulated bus, double decker bus. Since I have airports DLC, we got some airport buses in here, which is cool because it gives you a lot of flexibility with the buses that you didn't have before, right? You're not limited to the 30 capacity. We have buses that go up to 100 capacity now. So I mean, really kind of replaces tram in a way, unless you, of course, you want to have just tram in your city. I think in the next city we'll probably focus a little bit more on tram, maybe even some train again. I have a lot of nice plans for that city already. Hopefully you guys will stick around for the next Let's Play. This one's wrapping up. We probably have, I don't know, maybe 2-3 episodes left on the city. And our downtown is looking good. Looking real nice. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of work on the waterfront here. What I think I want to do is add some of the leisure. I think it's the one with the little like party face. I like the leisure one. It gives you like a lot of little shops, especially the one-dimensional ones. It gives you a lot of buildings with the little umbrellas and stuff. You get like a lot of those like 3x3, 2x3 type dimensions. Give you some nice restaurants. So that's cool. And I think what we'll do next to our kind of little leisure areas, maybe just do a little like custom park with a couple gazebos, some pathing and stuff. All right, let's play with some trees. Now we have the ability to change the trees. It looks good. I mean, how can you not like those trees? So let's go ahead and take a look at downtown and see how it's coming along so far. Like I mentioned before, we did some zoning with the generic industry, added those crate type buildings, some warehouse type buildings, added some services, recycle center with some fueling type assets. Got some buildings kind of going near our railroad track. Just in the front here, you can see it's all kind of coming along real nice. Our residential between our Zagorot and the Grand Mall is looking really nice. And the fish market's done. I mean, I just love the fish market with the local and organic produce. I mean, it just looks awesome. Some of the parking is done by the government center, so that's looking good, as well as a mix of our office and kind of commercial area. Let's go ahead and do some work on the other side of our train station. I think this is the inner city metro bus hub, if I'm not mistaken, and by I think these offices here. And what I like to do in this area, I think, let's take a look at the noise. The noise isn't too bad. So as I've been mixing kind of high density commercial, high density residential, office, all that stuff, I've been paying particular attention to the noise pollution info view. Because of course I don't want to upset my residents too much. I don't want to have sick people, to be honest with you. So it looks like in this spot, it's not that noisy. So in this area, what I like to do is just zone a couple 4x4 plots. What I'm looking for is kind of like that brick North American style building. And then let's go ahead over here by our 4-lane, which really is like the 6-lane road there because of lane mathematics. Let's go ahead and build a nice little neighborhood in here too. Well, that way we can add some more citizens to our population. And what I want to do on this side, I think, is do like a 4x4. It's like a level 1. I call it like the glass building, but it's a really tall level 1 4x4 building. It actually doesn't look too bad. It's a pretty nice looking building. I think I'm going to have that as like the centerpiece in this area. And on the outside here, what I'll probably do is zone a 3x2 level 2 North American building. That kind of complements the 4x4 level 1. And then on the other side of our rail track by our inner city bus hub, I think what I want to do here is zone some more high density European. So we'll go ahead and set that up. And then that way we'll have kind of like these North American style buildings towards the core of our downtown that have a little bit of height. And as we kind of step away from that, we'll have some of that high density European height that'll kind of bring that height down. And as you can see, we're in desperate need of education, so let's go ahead and add a school. And that'll also serve as kind of a barrier or noise blocker between our residents and the noisy bus station. And in this first block off the main kind of road, I want to have kind of a nice like community center area. So as you saw, we put down the botanical garden, and we'll add a few more assets near it. That brings a little bit of happiness to the citizens, probably adds a little land value, as well as gives them something to do. And let's see, what else can we put here? We put the gym. The gym looks pretty good. It surprisingly took that slope fairly well. And we can put the community pool in here too. And that way we have a pool, we have a gym, and the botanical gardens. I think that looks nice. And we'll just throw a little decorations here with a couple trees. Looks good. Let's see how our high density European area is coming along. It looks nice. We got a couple of the buildings I was looking for here. That 4x4 level 1. Let's just change the dimensions a little bit. The brick area is coming along. And I've also been working on this generic industry area. I moved over some of that European zoning across the railroad track, so we're getting a couple of those buildings in here. They look nice. I was looking for some kind of like that warehousey, fuel-y type buildings along our water here. It's always good to have park life DLC zoning nearby. Add a couple gazebos just to make it nice and decorative in here. Sometimes it's nice to do a little bit of detailing while you're trying to wait for that right building to come in. Looks pretty good. Give them a few more leisure items. It's looking good. Most of the buildings I was aiming for are coming in. Let's just take a look at our downtown again to see how it is shaping up. And it's looking nice. Our 4x4 level 1 buildings come in really nice, as well as this European area is coming along. And what I think I want to do behind those European buildings is let those North American style buildings get up a little bit taller, so probably like level 4, and then lock them down at level 4. Our brick area is coming along as well, looking pretty good. We'll probably mirror that on the other side of the street. And while I'm waiting on the last little bits of that area to come in, let's go ahead and start the road layout for this other side of our downtown. So what I want to do over here is continue a grid style road layout. I think that's looking nice so far. And I'd also like to push down in the European district style for that high density European buildings, and we'll zone some office and residential buildings kind of like together. The buildings themselves will actually look pretty close to each other, so it'll look fairly uniform, as well as provide homes for people to live in and jobs for them to go to work. But what I want to do with the road layout now I'm looking at it is actually break up this grid a little bit. What I like to do is bring a road almost like at a 45-degree right down the line here. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of our roads and actually redo them. There we go. That way we have this kind of... Sometimes it's just nice to have like a weird road that cuts through the grid. To me, it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing as well. So it just gives you like a different dynamic. It starts changing some of the block sizes and stuff like that. So this gives, like I said, a little bit more interesting look. Let's go ahead and change our main road through downtown to road with bus, because we are gonna have bus run down here. We'll probably have the dual articulated bus come down here. I went ahead and placed the old Market Street unique building. It's got a lot of those reddish brownish tones that the high density European style buildings have, so this is going to blend in real nice with this area. It's going to look really good. So we'll go ahead and zone office close to our unique building because it's got a little bit of noise, and on the opposite side of the pathway we'll zone some high density residential, and that way the high density residential is right along this nice avenue. It's going to look nice. Let's go ahead and do a little decoration along the path. It's a bike lane right now. What I think I'll end up doing is converting it to a pathway. It's a shame we're on console, there's no mods. I think on the workshop there's a dual purpose path. It's got biking and walking on like the same path. It's just tough on console because we always have to choose, and it's like, oh, which one do you pick? I'm always like stuck with that dilemma. So what I think I'll do with that path is change it to a walking path so bikers and walkers can be on it, and what we'll do is we'll link that path up to, you know, a road with biking, and then bikers can go on the path and then they can go into the bike lane and bike into downtown if that's what they want to do. And let's go ahead and zone some more buildings along our 4-lane road here. It's looking good. And we'll let them kind of populate in. And our education system's struggling just a little bit, so let's go ahead and add another high school and elementary school. We'll use the schools from the Green Cities DLC. They're always pretty. And we'll throw them in this area. We'll probably end up doing some self-sufficient in here anyway, and they go really well with that. And we'll do a little detailing around the school too. We can't just plop a school down. We gotta do something a little special. And the school's looking really good. Let's go ahead and hook up some power. And we're done. The downtown is complete. I'd like to take maybe the next 10 or 15 minutes and just kind of go over everything because there is a lot down here, and I also want to show you some things I built off camera that maybe help support the downtown as well that I'm not going to create a separate episode for. First, we'll just do a nice lap around downtown so you can kind of see it from different angles. Alright, well, let's dive into it. First, I want to show you this little neighborhood I built to the side of our downtown. This neighborhood is a uniform neighborhood, and I used North American style, so we'll just call it vanilla style. And these are level 1, 3x2 zoned light density residential. And I just wanted to kind of play with this neighborhood to see what it would look like to have, we'll say, like a planned development. And there's a high school in the middle of that as well, just to help give them some education, a couple leisure things. And on the edge of our downtown, where we have our 6-lane road with our bus lane, I'd added some Art Deco. So it's got a nice Art Deco look on the left. And that takes us down towards our ferry. And of course, we added a ferry terminal down here, and that connects this part of the city towards our campus, as well as you can go the opposite direction towards downtown. We have the biodome with a couple trees and paths right next to the ferry. It gives us a little bit of a buffer for noise, as well as something pretty that when you first arrive. Then we have elder care and child care, as well as the yoga garden. You can see I pushed it off the road, added a dirt path and a couple more trees to make it look a little bit longer. And then we have a couple offices, and next to that we have a couple leisure items like a large park, traffic park, and skate park. Nice little green space kind of downtown. And then our high density European area, we have kind of as you get away from downtown, the smaller buildings. These are our 2x2 corners with a 1x2 little building, and in the middle we have a nice little statue from our university, some trees, some pathing, and that looks really nice. And of course, next to that, same kind of buildings, 2x1 and 2x2. But in here we have the climbing frame and a couple of the gazebos. Kind of create a nice, like, central area. As we get closer in towards our downtown, the buildings get a little bit more compact, a little bit bigger. We have a nice little biking area with we have a nice little bike path going through the trees, so let's get a nice little green space you might find, as well as let's take a look at the rest of our high density European area. It looks really nice. Looks really nice with the old Market Street, and we have this nice path that kind of cuts through, helps folks get across the street from our self-sufficient and our other European area into this area, and that connects with the bike lane. And of course, the bike lane just runs straight through, and it connects with the Metro Intercity Bus Hub, as well as our multi-platform train station. Let's take one more look at that. It looks really nice. I like how the old Market Street kind of blends in with the high-density European, especially these high-density European commercial buildings. These are 4x4s. They're right next to a nice parking lot, and then that parking lot kind of separates our high-density commercial area with our residential area. And just to the left of like the parking lots and our park, little small park, we have our high school and all that stuff, and up against that we have this modern city building. It's a really pretty 4x4, and these are 2x4s, level 2, and a couple offices as well. And then next to that we have some high density self-sufficient. We got a couple tall ones, and they're next to some small apartments on the right. And these tall ones got a nice little plaza in the middle, so that's always pretty to have a nice little plaza. And then next to that is just some higher level 4 and level 5 North American style buildings. And then behind them is some more self-sufficient, and we got some IT across the street. So this kind of gives us some nice height. And on the other side of that, we got some more North America and more self-sufficient. Once again, we got the parking lot, so people can kind of park down here and kind of go to the marketplace. We got some parking with some of our unique buildings. Let's go ahead and take a look at our downtown from like the government center. That looks really nice. We have the Eddy building next to our Colossal Order and the Servicing Service building, the Majesty, and the high-rise office, Japanese Creator Pack, Grand Mall, and Transport Tower. And we got Zagorot and the Science Center. So those are the unique buildings down here. And that looks really nice. We got a nice leisure area, and then the nice like little custom park area. And then I actually put in a zoo. I was gonna make a video on placing the zoo. I don't know, I still have that footage, so maybe that'll be the next episode. We'll see. I mean, I'm showing it to you now, so it's kind of like a spoiler. So once again, we'll see. If there's a lot of demand in the comments or something to actually show the building of the zoo, we'll go ahead and do that. If not, that's fine. We'll just see it here in its entirety. First, it's got these nice bridges that are ferries are going on under, and that allows people on the other side of the waterway to just walk or bike into downtown. So this city does have a lot of walkability and bikeability, which is of course helping out the traffic. And we have our large ferry pier up against our high density commercial area that's European style. Looks really good. Put a couple of zoo plazas in there just for looks. They're not connected to anything. Nobody's going to them. It's just something nice to have in the middle. And I love how the fish market looks with all these little flea market type buildings next to it. It just looks really cool. I added the pathway going up and over the roadway to get people to and from our train station. And once again, just get them out of the street. We have a couple unique buildings in here from the Japanese creator content. They look really nice. The brown tones go with the train station that we chose. So everything's kind of like coming together. And then we have like this office and mix of kind of different commercial zones. And it looks nice. I mean, some of the office is leveled up to level 3 and they look really pretty. Give us some height. And we got that 4x4 level 1, kind of like apartment complex. That turned out nice. We put a couple gazebos in there with some pathing. And we have these 3x2 level 2 buildings in here. And we got a pathway that connects our self-sufficient area to this part of downtown. And the biking kind of goes up to it. So once again, there's a lot of walkability and bikeability in the city, and people are moving around real nicely. And then we have a nice little colorful area with these level 1 North American buildings, and in the back we got some of the North American style buildings that level up to like level 4. So it gives us some good height, and there's a nice pathing and some nice trees back there, kind of shielding us a little bit from the train line. In the front we have our high density European area with the botanical garden and the gym and the swimming pool. And bordering our 4-lane American road, we have the brick buildings that I was looking for. Came out really nice. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a rougher look of town. Just right on the edge of office and our little fishing area, like the harbor area. Added some pathing to connect our bus station to our train station. That's being used quite a bit, so that looks nice. I love watching people walking by. And I zoned out another area. This area is basically a North American themed area to add some more residents to our city. I built a nice little education area. Well, that's what I always seem to do. I don't know why, I just addicted to doing that, I guess. Got the high school, a couple of sports fields and some nice trees and stuff. And next to the school, I added another path to connect this part of town with the other part of town across the 4-lane road, keeps them out of the street. And this area looks really nice. It's got a couple different things. One thing I do want to point out is I did take some time to decorate a bus stop. I added the taxi stand and this little detailed area with some seating, fountains, trees, the grill, a couple of those little stands, all from like the city park stuff in here. Just, I don't know, sometimes you're bored and you want to just try something. And then there's actually a natural reserve park off in the hills. We got a little wildlife crossing area that both folks and wildlife can get across the highway. And then down within the park itself, I just did a nice little detailing area for like a little beach. So I added like the small like lookout tower, whatever it is, from the natural reserve park. That's like our lifeguard stand, and added some of the chairs and stuff as like little beach chairs. And alongside of that, to the left, we have a nice little cabin retreat along the water. That flows into our fishing area. I really love this bridge. It's got that American 4-lane bridge with the steel underneath. And when you combine that with these arches from the regular 4-lane road, you get these big foundational pillars, and they always look really good. And here's our little harbor area. We have the shellfish pier in here, a couple fish factories, a couple warehouses, some selective zoning with the generic industry, some offices, and it looks really nice. We've got some nice offices up against the train track. Keep them awake while they're working. We got some of the crates and warehouse type generic industry in here as well. Some nice offices. Give folks some jobs. And that's our downtown. Let's take a look at it from afar to see how the skyline looks. I really like how it looks. I feel like we did achieve that kind of tapered look where we have this core in the middle and the buildings kind of fan out. We got some nice large structures in here, as well as some nice green areas. So not only is it a city, a downtown city, but we have taken the time to designate some nice area for green spaces and leisure. Let's just go ahead and take a few minutes and go over to the transit in case you're interested in the transit. So we have, of course, our multi-platform train station, and that's connected the downtown all over the city. Really, we have a line that goes out to other cities. So this train does accept intercity trains, as well as we have the green line that kind of wraps around, does all kinds of stuff, and a blue line that is a shortcut to school. There's a handful of bus lines in here. We have one bus line that runs up and down, we'll say, the main street. And it kind of goes from the ferry to the fish market to the train station, then into the office area, and then to our residential area, and links up with another bus route that kind of runs diagonally across downtown. It kind of runs through the government center by the old market, up into the other ferry, and scooping up different people in that area, as well as we have this other bus route that runs up the 6-lane road with bus. And that connects that's North American neighborhood, runs through our downtown with several stops downtown, as well as runs into the other high-density European area that we built several episodes ago. So it links up with several different buses. And then there's another bus route, this kind of like purpley-ish route that runs towards our old market, links up with the pink route, as well as, we'll say, the darkish blue route, and then goes into another part of town that we quote-unquote haven't built yet. and that's our transit. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our downtown at night. And I think this is going to wrap this one up. I think next episode we're going to build another self-sufficient area that includes a marina. I hope you liked this video. Sorry for the length. I know it was a bit long, but hopefully you got a lot out of it. And if you did, please leave a like. Of course, you know it helps support and grow the channel. As well as I'd love to welcome you into the NBC family by having you become a subscriber. If you'd like to interact with me live, stop by my Twitch page, the link is below, and shoot me a follow. That way you'll be notified the next time I stream. And we'll probably start streaming here in another week or so. I wish you the best and brightest success in your cities. And as always, happy building.